back to my channel. In today's video, we are gonna break down my social media ecosystem. A question that I get a lot is, oh my goodness, Vanessa, you are on YouTube, you're on Instagram, you're on podcasts, you're on Facebook, you're everywhere. Why? Why do you do that? And so today I'm gonna answer that question. So if you wanna learn more about my social media strategy and why I'm on different platforms and the specific strategy for each platform, then keep watching. All right, let's get started. So let's just visualize my business social media wise on a little graph. So right at the top of this graph is gonna be YouTube. Right now, YouTube is what fuels everything in my business. And let me finish, because I know you guys are like, but you're all about Instagram. There's a reason why I'm all about Instagram and not as much about YouTube, but I do want to share with you step by step in the hierarchy of how things work in my business. First thing is YouTube. YouTube is at the top of the funnel, let's say, in terms of my business. It's what's generating me the most traffic right now. And for those of you who are watching this video, you likely have found me through YouTube. Whether or not you follow me mostly on Instagram or whether or not you follow me mostly on my podcast, you likely first heard about me because of YouTube. And that is the power of YouTube. Because unlike the other platforms such as Instagram, it's not so much about recency. What I mean by that is I could post a video from last year and you would still be able to find it through search, or maybe it might pop up on your home feed. How many times have you seen a video from like 3 years ago suddenly pop up on your home feed? That's happened to me. I found people through their old videos. And that's why YouTube is awesome, because the more videos that you create on YouTube, the more traffic that you get over time. I once worked with a friend, his name is Wilson. I helped him optimize one of these videos about building an ice cream business, okay? He had a video about that. And when we first did the video, it flopped, okay? It wasn't getting a lot of views. I was stressing because at the time he was paying me to help him optimize his videos and all that. And it wasn't really performing that well in the first few months that he launched that video. But then suddenly, 6 months later, that video ended up getting so many views because summer hit, more people were interested in starting ice cream businesses, and that video alone helped fuel a lot of the traffic coming to his channel, and he was able to explode his subscriber rate from a video that initially didn't do well, but suddenly did well like 6 months later. And so that's the power of YouTube. It's not just about the recency part of it. And so the more videos that you post on YouTube, the more your footprint, the bigger your footprint, I should say, becomes bigger and bigger on the platform. People can find your old videos through search, or for some reason, the YouTube algorithm might pick something up from your past. Not only this, the reason why I really love using YouTube is because if I post a video on YouTube, it might show up on Google. So if someone's searching for a problem or they're looking for a solution and they're typing that in Google, my videos might also show up, which is also really, really cool. And so that's why YouTube is really at the heart and center of how I get most of my traffic, especially on the organic side of things. And that's kind of why I like to say to people, if you can't afford doing Facebook ads, if you're not the level to do paid advertising, even if you did a video once a month and you posted it on YouTube, you optimize the keywords, have a really great topic, and have a really great title that's searchable, you're still gonna be able to get some traffic. Even if I stopped filming YouTube videos, my videos are still gonna get me traffic. And so it's a machine that ends up building on itself, and it's a machine that ends up having that snowball effect over time. And so that's why YouTube stays at the top of my social media ecosystem. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, oh my goodness, YouTube seems awesome. I should put all my eggs in YouTube. Well, there are some cons when it comes to YouTube. The biggest one that I can think of is for YouTube, there are going to be certain topics that perform better than others. And the audience that typically is on YouTube, at least for me in my experience, is the type of audience that's really interested in getting results super fast, or really interested in just more hackier things. And that's why a lot of times some of my most loyal subscribers, some of my most loyal audience members, they're gonna message me saying, oh, Vanessa, you keep doing videos about Instagram hacks and you keep still doing videos about just all the hacky things. Why? And I'm like, well, because that's what performs on YouTube. And so if you want the traffic, sometimes you got to create pop music content. And that's just something that I came up with. And basically how I came up with this analogy is, I don't know if you guys have ever watched like Black Mirror. Well, in one of the seasons in Black Mirror, Miley Cyrus plays a musician and she is forced to constantly create pop music content. Content that will always, hit the top 40 charts, really the poppy, boppy type of music. But deep down inside, she wants to do like deep soul music, right? But that stuff doesn't perform well. It's not mainstream. And that's kind of my same opinion when it comes to YouTube. On YouTube, there are certain content pieces like how to get 10K followers in 10 days, or, how to get the swipe up feature, or how to hack this and hack that. Those topics generally get the most clicks because people want fast results in a short period of time, or big results in a short period of time. As a content creator, it can be very exhausting to do videos like that. But you know those videos are the mainstream videos that you know are gonna perform well. I know every time I do an Instagram video or a video about making money, typically those videos perform better than others. For instance, I posted a video about taxes, and I thought this was like the best video ever, but it didn't perform as well as my other videos because the audience on YouTube just isn't big enough to care about videos like these that actually have a lot of educational content versus just the gimmicky, hacky stuff. Sometimes you might feel like, oh my gosh, I can't really create the content that I want to create, and the content that I do want to create doesn't perform, and blah, 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 blah. And so that's kind of the caveat when it comes to YouTube. You might be stuck creating pop music content. Now, you can always change your strategy and do the content that makes you happy and all of that, but sometimes there are drawbacks. And so I'm just being completely transparent. In the comment section, you might disagree with me, but that's just kind of my experience being on YouTube. Now, listening to that perspective, you might be thinking, well, Vanessa, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about being stuck creating content that you actually don't really like creating? Well, how I see it and how I've conditioned myself to see it is it's my business. I don't take business personally anymore, and there are other ways that I release my passions, and that's why I have other platforms to tap into. But when it comes to navigating YouTube and navigating that little caveat of creating pop music content all the time, here are some things that I do that might help you as a YouTuber. Number one, I know that every video has a different strategy. There are going to be some videos that are my traffic drivers, okay? These are typically the videos that are about YouTube, about Instagram, social media, hacks, all those things, right? Those are traffic drivers. And when I create those videos, I've already accepted and I already know that that is meant to drive traffic. And then I've got other videos that are to nurture, videos that are for my oldest subscribers, my subscribers that are sick of the hacks, right? Videos like these where it's a little bit more honest and it's a little bit more real. Videos where I open up, videos of me in the day of my life, all those things. Those are more for nurturing purposes. And I know that they might not perform as well as the hack stuff, but I know that those videos are also important for people who maybe aren't on my YouTube channel for the very first time, and maybe it's the 50th video that they've seen from me and they're like, I'm sick of all the hack stuff, I'm sick of the social media stuff. Vanessa, tell us more about your business. Tell us more about the behind the scenes. Those videos are also really important. And so you just want to find a fine balance between that, and just in your mind, know that certain videos have different strategies, and some videos you already know might not perform well, but making them makes you happy, and making them makes you more connected to your older subscribers who have been on your channel for a very long time. Just know that the traffic drivers are still also really important, because I probably wouldn't have my loyal subscribers if it weren't for those traffic driving videos. A lot of my most loyal subscribers found me through the hackier videos, and then they evolve with me, which leads me to my second point, and that is my strategy when it comes to YouTube is, I will use titles that I know are gonna get the clicks. I will use thumbnails like this where it seems to exaggerate a certain result or make it seem really like crazy. And I never really choose the clickbait route, even though I just said the word clickbait, but I don't necessarily lie, but I do reframe and position the videos to make it look extreme and to make it look more attractive. And then once that person is hooked and clicks on that video, I deliver the goods, but I also make sure that my audience leaves with something that they didn't expect to leave with. I always want to make sure that my videos are going to maybe change someone's perspective. So let's say I might create videos like this where it's all about how to do this and how to get all the likes and all those things. But inside the video, my core message will really teach someone why likes aren't that important to track on social media, and what is instead very important to track on social media. So I hook people with those crazy titles and crazy thumbnails and all that, and then in the content I make sure that they walk away with what I really want them to walk away with. So that's YouTube for you. It sits at the very top of our social media ecosystem, and it is basically the traffic driver, at least for our organic channels. And of course, when I first started YouTube, it wasn't the case. It was my Instagram fueling the traffic to my YouTube, but now my YouTube is at the place that it's at where it's really fueling a lot of the traffic to our other platforms. Then right underneath this graph, you will find Instagram. And Instagram, I like to call it the relationship building platform. This is where you're able to get so close to your followers, to your audience members. And personally for me, it is the best place to close clients. It's the best place to convert your followers into clients. That's literally what I'm all about. And the reason why I say this is really name another platform where not only can you post content in various formats, whether that's video content, audio content, written content, short form 15-second content thanks to IG Reels, and also be able to DM people, like actually direct message, send voice notes, send video notes, hop on a call with them if you'd like, FaceTime them, book a call with someone just from their link in bio. There's just so many things that you can do with Instagram that gets you closer to your peeps. But what I found and how we leverage Instagram is for multiple ways. The first one is definitely leveraging Instagram stories. Instagram is really where I get feedback from you guys. I ask you guys questions. I open up the conversation to include my audience. So whenever I do post a YouTube video, a lot of you guys might feel like you were a part of making that happen because I maybe polled you and asked for your feedback. Or I share behind the scenes of how I work. It's really these little touch points that I have with my audience members that make them feel connected to me. And if someone was already thinking about potentially working with me at a business capacity, then maybe it takes a few Instagram stories for them to realize, wow, Vanessa actually is a really cool person. And I really jive with her message and I really want to learn more about what she does. And so that's why we're always on Instagram, is the IG stories really helps us get closer to you guys. I wouldn't be able to do that on YouTube. On top of that, we leverage direct messaging. So a fun fact is, over in my business, whenever we do talk to people who are interested in enrolling in the Bossgram Academy, we end up getting a 20% conversion rate. 20%. That is a really high conversion rate. And I'm sure some other people who have maybe smaller audiences, your conversion rate might be even higher when it comes to closing on the DMs. And closing on the DMs actually is something that we teach inside the Bossgram Academy. And using our system, we are really able to sign multiple students into our programs and allow us to open the conversation to see whether or not they'd be a good fit, to warm them up before they even enter our sales pages, before they even see the program, really asking them what their needs truly are before we present them with our offer. DMs is a great place specifically on Instagram because you're able to send voice notes, video notes. There's just so much dimension to that conversation that you wouldn't really have on any other platform. And so that's why I really love Instagram. Now, things that I hate about Instagram is, maybe getting traffic sometimes might be a little bit harder, but there are certain things that you can do to make it happen, to make it work for you. Collaborations is one of them, really cross-pollinating communities with other people who maybe share a similar audience pool to you. Being on other platforms to fuel your Instagram, that is also really helpful. And then using Instagram as the way to get closer, the way to generate that relationship with people. And so that's kind of how I start seeing my platforms, is each platform has a purpose. I'm not able to close people. I'm not able to sign clients on YouTube, let's say, but I'm able to get the visibility, send them over to my Instagram, and then my Instagram is where all the magic happens. And so that's kind of where Instagram sits in our ecosystem when it comes to managing all of our social media platforms and figuring out what is the purpose of each one. Now, of course, there are tons of other ways that you can make Instagram work for you. So definitely check out the complimentary training that I talk about a lot in most of my videos where applicable. And that is www.followerstoclients.com. We teach you how to create content and how to set up a funnel that you could use and share on Instagram so that you can close more prospects using the platform. And on top of that, just a little pro tip. I know I mentioned about how it's hard to get traffic on Instagram, blah, 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 blah. If you're someone who's like, honestly, that's freaking me out, and I don't really have the capacity to do YouTube or anything else, well, creating shareable content can also really help. And remember that it's not about the likes and the comments, but if you can create content like this that promotes social sharing, that promotes people to actually click that little arrow airplane button or whatever, share it to their stories, and share your content to their audience, that's already super helpful. So I definitely don't want you guys to be discouraged, but I do want to be transparent on, at our stage in business, how we're leveraging all the platforms and how I see the purpose of each platform. Now, the next platform that I want to talk about is podcast. So podcast is a newer addition to our social media ecosystem, and it is really a nurturing platform for sure. The content that I post on podcast is typically the content that I'm really passionate about talking about. So for example, earlier on in this video, I talked about how for YouTube, it seems like most of the content that I post is pop music content. Well, podcast, on the other hand, is content that I'm really, really excited about talking about, such as real business strategy, mindset, all those things that is more for someone who is a little bit more advanced, a little bit more of a better fit for our programs and services that are very, very business oriented. And what I love about podcasts too is that the retention rate is much higher. You know, most people will finish a podcast episode. They'll listen to 30, 45 minutes of my episodes, whereas on YouTube, the average retention rate for me is at like 5 minutes. I only have 5 minutes of your attention before most of you guys will click out. If you've gotten to this place in the video, thank you. So that's the awesome part about podcasts is the person who listens to a podcast is way more engaged, which means that they are more receptive to your information. I also love podcasts because you can put your own ad breaks. And so when you have your own ad breaks and you can promote your own products and services and your offers and put them front and center, and the person who's listening to the podcast is someone who is paying attention, again, that can lead to higher conversion rates as well. And so that's why podcasting is very, very important to our business. And until I can find more support and more help and have more staff on my team, I really hope that I can be more consistent posting content on podcasts. Because again, the con of doing podcasts is, at least for me, because I'm on YouTube, I'm on Instagram, I'm everywhere else, you know, it is time consuming to write the scripts and to record. Now, I will say that creating content on podcasts is much easier than creating content on YouTube for most people. But for me, I am so used to creating snappy content on YouTube that it's actually pretty hard for me to create podcast content for some reason. So it really swings both ways depending on your personality and your style. But I will say that what's a really great thing about podcasts too is just the fact that you can collaborate with people a lot easier. For me, it's very hard to coordinate collaborations for YouTube, especially during a global pandemic. I'm not able to fly out and actually meet the YouTuber, film together side by side. Whereas on podcasts, you can open yourself up to a lot of collaboration opportunities because all it takes is just hopping on Zoom or Skype or whatever, hitting record and having a conversation, taking that conversation and turning that into an episode. It's really, really easy to form collaborations on podcast. But again, another con is that maybe the search capabilities on podcasts just aren't as good as YouTube. And so you really want to weigh out your options, especially if you're someone who's watching this and you're thinking, oh, well, should I do podcast or YouTube? Well, for me personally, I think podcast is a growing platform. And I think that if you don't have a lot of time, I think podcast is awesome because all you do is hit record. You don't have to get dolled up like I do. You can just sit there in your PJs or not wear any clothes at all and start filming or recording an episode and then putting that up. That's awesome. Or if you want to really spend more time and effort, then creating YouTube videos could be a good option for you. But just remember, you're gonna really have to show up. However, when you do create YouTube videos, there's way more content pieces that you can repurpose, right? Because YouTube, you've got video, you've got audio. I can turn these videos into things for Instagram. I can really do a lot with it. I can take the transcript and turn it into captions. I can do so much. Whereas with podcasts, it's just audio. So I can do audiograms. I can do captions too, but I'm missing that video component and I may not be able to fuel all my other more visual platforms just using podcast content. So that's the pros and cons. But for us, we use podcasts primarily to really target people who truly would be a good fit for our programs and services, because the person who's listening to my podcast is someone who already is a little bit more advanced in business or is interested in entrepreneurship, like really interested in starting their business. And that's where my content can serve that specific type of person. Now, I will share some insider info. So this isn't something that we're currently implementing in business, but I am thinking of implementing in the near future for the podcast. And that is filming myself recording the podcast episodes. And I was really inspired by like Logan Paul for some reason. I know that his podcast, he always has it on video, and that way he's able to stretch his content out farther. I believe, what's that podcast called? It's like the Daddy Gang Show or something. You know, they also do that as well. They film a lot of their podcast episodes. So they actually have video content that they can repurpose. And so that's definitely something that I'm thinking of implementing in the future in terms of a social media strategy. So that way, even though I'm creating podcast episodes, I have a visual content piece that I can repurpose for Facebook ads, for Instagram, for all these other platforms that would make the podcast episode a little bit more heightened and give people more options if they prefer video versus just listening to audio. So even though I'm not implementing that right now, I just wanted to share that strategy with you because if you have time to do it, then I I think it's a good option to consider. Anyways, guys, I can tell by the constant changes in lighting for this video that this video should probably be ending soon, otherwise I'm gonna lose all the lighting. But that's basically the overview of some of the top social media platforms that we use in our business. It's more of a casual video today, but I really hope that it gave you more insights on how we leverage the different platforms, the big three, the YouTube, the Instagram, and the podcast. And I hope it inspires you on what you might want to do for your business and how you want to, see your platforms in terms of which purpose they all serve. So anyways, guys, as you wait for next week's video, I post a lot of videos on social media, marketing, entrepreneurship, and all the likes of that. So make sure you check out these two videos right here if you haven't already. I promise they won't disappoint. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great day, a great week, and a great life, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care, guys. Bye.